Hello and welcome to Wolfman Gaming. This is my Ghostrunner 2 walkthrough and this is mission 5 called Behind the Curtain. And thanks to Kira, the very kind, slightly goofy hacker, we can now hack this cyber void environment. So we can change the, polarity or whatever you want to say about these platforms at will by pressing square if you're playing this on PlayStation and X button if you're playing this on Xbox. If you're using the classic alternative button layout. I don't know if that changes if you use another layout, but I'm guessing that you have complete control of that, and also it gives you a text prompt about what button to press. And I think this is really fun because remembering pressing that button caused me some problems the first time going through this. And it's quite fun because we're gonna use that in the next boss fight as well. But that is not in this level, that is later on. This is basically just a parkour part of this game, and I think the parkour in this game is so much fun. I think these levels are so well designed because parkour is all about flow. We all know this. I remember when I first found out about it in early 2000s, I stumbled across a video on YouTube of I think it was some kind of French guy, was world famous parkour runner. And my other experience of parkour based games was Mirror's Edge, and I think this game flows so much better than Mirror's Edge. I think the idea of Mirror's Edge is fun, but I think there was too much trial and error involved in that game, trying to find a good flow, because in this game the game shows you naturally how you're supposed to go. There is like an outlined path that you're supposed to take, and all the game mechanics are designed around that. You have more options in Mirror's Edge, I would say. And of course, because it is designed for you to be able to find your own path. But I think it's sometimes felt very clumsy. And these enemies that are introduced in this level, I have no idea what their official name is. I know I've seen it once. I tried to Google it prior to narration. I couldn't find it. All I found was an enemy list of the first game. So I'm gonna refer to them as whips. And whips cannot be killed with shurikens. When you throw a shuriken at a whip, he will just shrug his shoulders and don't care. But whips always attack in the same pattern. They always do first a horizontal sweep with their whips, and after that they will do a vertical overhead slam with the whips. And their tracking of you is very bad. So if you jump towards a whip, he will always start with this horizontal sweep, and that will every time it will go over your head. And if you are running towards one of them, and when you start to see the animation of him throwing out his whips, all you have to do is jump and move slightly to the side via dash. Whatever it's called. Sensory boost is what it's called. Suffer a brain fart there for a second. So they are very easy to take on, but that overhead slam, I think that can take you by surprise. I think that's it's harder to avoid than the horizontal sweep, because the whips have a tendency to be invisible, as he starts. I don't know if it's just a rendering problem. I think it might be, because it feels like that wouldn't be a active design choice, that you cannot see the whips. But always remember that first he does a horizontal sweep, then he does a vertical one. If you haven't killed him when he does the horizontal one, make sure to dodge to the side so he doesn't clock you in the face. But now, since we have upgraded our motherboard a bit, we have unlocked the Flux ability. And that is what's called an ultimate ability. And Flux is the only ultimate ability I will be using throughout this walkthrough, and I only use it twice throughout the entire game. First time I think is actually in this level, if I recall correctly, and the other one is very late in the game, where I will also... And the reason I use it in that instance is because that is a great way to unlock 2 trophies if you have the right modifiers installed. But I'm gonna try not to get ahead of myself. Instead, we're gonna focus on this room. When we get into this room, first we're gonna take out the enemy down in the middle. So we want to move up to him in a zigzag pattern in between these platforms, like so. And this is where I use Flux. We take him out and go up here and activate Flux. You see, it does have a bit of a startup. You can install 2 abilities later on that are called Ultimate Booster 1 and 2. And the first one, if you have one installed, it will make the beam last longer, and the other one will negate that warm up time, so to speak. It will trigger instantly. Both of them need to be installed for getting the trophy called Scorch Squad, which I will show you how to unlock, but that is in mission 16, I think. So, and if you read the description, you see that I have written down that you should install Ultimate Booster 1 and 2, and that is because we're gonna unlock that trophy. But I'm gonna try to not get ahead of myself. Now we have gotten a new skill called Shadow. And the Shadow skill puts up a clone of Jack, which can lure enemies that will make them fire at that, and turns the real Jack invisible for a certain amount of time. When you activate it, you see a little shadow symbol in the middle of the screen, and that goes down. A thing to know: if you kill an enemy when you have the shadow skill active, it will instantly remove shadow. And also, as you saw there, it can be used to trigger these beams. Use it to block them, to change the polarity, or solidify these walls, or make them unsolidify, which is going to be used throughout this level. And sometimes it gets quite stressful because this game tests your hand-eye coordination. Like, how many buttons can you press at a very short period of time? But it's quite a fun skill. It has its uses. It's a great help in certain areas and certain encounters. I would say actually my favorite skill is the shurikens. By the way, when you get down here, make sure to be quick. Dash once and go for that trigger and hide in between this wall, or in behind this wall. Because you saw that slugger, he will come after you. If you don't dash when you land on the first platform, you will have a high risk of him landing and smacking you over the back of your head. And the reason you want to hide in behind that wall is so that the key on the other bridge can't see you, so you don't run a risk getting hit by him. Now where was I? Shurikens. I think I talked about, is my favorite skill in the game, because I think there is a modifier that I installed actually in between this and the previous level. I've forgotten to mention that, called Oiled Machinery, and makes Shuriken skill cost 22% less energy. If you're just gonna install one modifier throughout this entire game, I would say go for Oiled Machinery. Because in combat that allows you to throw, usually you can throw 2 shurikens when you're in combat, and that will deplete the energy bar. With Oiled Machinery installed, you can throw 3 of them in total, and that can make such surprisingly big difference. And you see me flying back and forth across this room, that was me suffering a brain fart during this recording. What you're supposed to do is fly, do a hologram to unsolidify those walls, and do the same, and throw a shuriken at it and do the same thing on the other side. And it took me a second to figure that out, because I don't know, I was stupid. And in this room, as you can see, you just go past the whip guy and the shinobi, and here you see the vertical overhead slam, and you saw his whips, his whips. I don't drink wine, but the whips. His whips were invisible when he started his overhead slam. For some reason, I have no idea why that is. I think that is just a rendering fault. But if you're not prepared for it, because that is probably the first time you will see his second swing, so to speak, because you usually make quick work of them, as you do with all enemies, that can catch you off guard. And this is the point I was talking about, where you have to use the shadow ability very much to to get those poles to come out or go back in. And it can be quite stressful because it feels like there are a lot of button presses you have to do in a very short amount of time. And when we get down here, I recommend just ignore the hammer bro and go for this force field orb. Jump over his shockwaves, go take him out, kill these last 2 melee fellas, and you're good. And this can be quite a tight squeeze going through those lasers. Actually, I think I died once going back. But either way, when you get through, make sure to hit that little trigger so you activate this fan, and we can go across this chasm. And when we get over here, make sure to make a right, because we're gonna pick up this memory shard and get one step closer to getting our next motherboard upgrade. And in, let's see, I think it's in the next room. No, it isn't. In this room there is a challenge. There are 10 challenges throughout this game. In this room, if you're gonna take on the challenge in here, pro tip, make sure when you start, the trigger for the challenge is up here, over on the other side. You can see the terminal over there that's lit up. When you start the challenge, make sure to jump out in the middle on the booster platform, so you start with the drone that is at the top. If you haven't tried the challenge, this will make no sense to you. If you have tried challenge, you will know exactly what I mean. But make sure you jump out into the middle onto the booster platform, so you land on the top drone, and work your way over to the back right corner. Then go around counterclockwise. You see that booster pad just over to the left? That is the booster pad I'm talking about. Make sure to start there. It will help you a lot with this challenge. And as I said, if you haven't tried the challenge, you will not know what I mean. But if you try the challenge, you will know exactly what I mean. It's over to the left, to the next platform over to the left. And this is the room I was thinking about. This is the last room of this level, and here you will see a really shitty edit. That is because I was playing inconsistently here. I tried to play very consistently so I can hide any cuts as best I can. But I didn't manage it here. If you stay on the left side of this bridge, you will see a booster pad down on the left side. Jump down by it, or you can jump down here on the right side, but it's easier on the left because you see where the booster pad is. And pick up a memory shard. That will bring our motherboard up to level 4, and we get the blink ability. And the blink ability is something I haven't tried, to be completely honest, but as I've understood from reading about it, it allows you to blink up to an enemy and instantly kill them. So a bit like in Dishonored. But either way, that is the end of mission 5. So I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. So until next time, this is the Wolfman signing off.